Hey everyone, welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting Frances Strickland, a profitability expert and founder of Verolead Business Solutions, where she helps business owners stabilize cash flow, grow profit margins, and build legacies through her signature Ignite programs. With a background in manufacturing and HR, Fran blends a strategy of leadership, faith-driven values to empower entrepreneurs to achieve sustainable growth in a life they love. How are you doing today, Fran?
I am fantastic, Anthony. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. The day's off to a good start. The week's looking good. Spring's here, so I'm enjoying. Getting out and walking in the morning. So it's been a good way to start. But I've really enjoyed the conversations that we've had in the past. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and we've talked a couple times. So I was excited to have you on here to kind of share what you're doing. But to start off, where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from the Crissier, Switzerland area. That's near Geneva. And yeah, and it's the afternoon here. It's a beautiful day also. So I can feel the excitement about spring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So have you been there for a while, or are you newer to the area?
Yeah, yes, actually, I've been here almost 16 years. Yeah, I
Okay.
came in 2009.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's say you have friends coming in that have never visited before. Where are you going? What are you doing? And what's for dinner?
Oh, wow. So where are we going? Well, we can go to the Olympic Museum. I mean, this is that's one of the premier things that we have here, particularly in the area that I am. We have a beautiful lake. We call it Lake Geneva, but it's Lake Lemont. You can go and enjoy that, especially in the spring and the summer. The summer, preferably, because we still have some mountain water pouring in. Great food. Make sure you eat the signature raclette and fondue. And you can find great places if you're in Geneva, certainly in Lausanne. Let's make sure that you enjoy that traditional food. Great food. I've enjoyed it. And give me a call and I will take you on a tour.
Huh, that sounds awesome. You guys heard it. But no, that's awesome. Yeah, I can see why you've been there for 16 years. So awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what is it that you do?
Well, I work with small and medium sized business owners, founders, CXOs to grow their profitability. I actually say it moves them from that icky place of feast and famine cash flow to predictable profits. And if they have big dreams, yes, we're talking about building a legacy. What are they going to leave behind when they leave that business?
Okay. Well, is this something that you've always done or always wanted to do, or how'd you get started?
Oh, yeah. Well, I started my career, my corporate career, actually in manufacturing. And I just really got a real love for business because in manufacturing, you're talking about costing, workflows, you have people. It's like the whole bundle of anything that you would need to run a business. So I always had a love for business in general. But when I was in university, I said I was going to be a human resources leader. So I actually went into human resources and spent a good deal of my career in human resources in addition to manufacturing. But when I came out in 2015, I was just looking around and I'm saying, okay, what can I do with these great experiences I've had? I've been with C-suite executives. I worked with some great thought houses like BCG, McKinsey, and I had all these insights, and I said, what can I do with what I've been blessed to learn? And, traveling to South Carolina, I'm from South Carolina. So I would go home and I would see all these small businesses and I would look and I would say, oh, that could be improved, that could be improved. And so I said, okay, this is what I can do because I have all this great business background. Perhaps I can use that to help smaller businesses really find their way and become more than simply hand to mouth. And so that's how I ended up getting into this space of business solutions, small business solutions, because the larger companies they have the resources, but smaller businesses don't. And it's about bringing that expertise and knowledge to them in bite-sized pieces that they can use.
Awesome. What is it that you love most about what you're doing now?
Whew, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'll try to focus on two things. What I love the most is first meeting the person where they are, because we're coming from very different backgrounds, and so I have no idea where someone's experience is taking them, how they're feeling about their business. So that's very exciting for me to spend time and just get to know who they are as human beings, what it is they want with their business. And then the second part of that is after listening to them and hearing their vision and hearing their concerns, to just engage with them to help expand their horizons. Sometimes they haven't had the opportunity to see or hear something different. So I can bring that. In other cases, they have seen and heard things that I haven't seen and heard. So then I get my horizons expanded. So I really love that exchange between just two human beings meeting each other where we are first and foremost, and then moving to working together in a way that can be mutually beneficial for both.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that as well. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what somebody else knows. And when you kind of have that conversation, like you said, meet where each other are, you're going to take something away from it. So
Sure,
that's awesome.
absolutely.
So when you're looking at your average client or the avatar of your average client, what does that look like, or what are the pain points that they all have in common? That if somebody's going through X, Y, or Z, you're the person they should be talking to.
Wow. Well, the most common pain point is stable cash flow. I mean that derails so many businesses, and so many people when they start their business, they're basically dealing with the situation where the money that comes into the business is their money to live off of. I call it the ATM type business: cash in, cash out. And so they haven't had the opportunity to build a thought process that it is a business and that there are certain things that they need to make allowances for. So when they have cash to come into business, how do they allocate it so they cover things like taxes, administrative support, maybe some commercial sales and marketing strategy, and then what they walk away with in terms of their pay. So they don't get a chance to even think that way because the cash flow is so unpredictable. Um, and my ideal client is one who has had a business that either they realize that they can do better or they're wondering if they can do better. And so they are really hungry to learn and to find new ways of doing things or new ways to fill gaps that they've been missing. They may have a bookkeeper uh, because they'll know, okay, well, I need to keep up with my invoices, etc. But they may not necessarily be in a strategic way thinking about how they are handling their taxes, for example. Or they say, yeah, they do word of mouth marketing, but they don't know any other forms of marketing, how they can reach their ideal client. So it's a business that's been in operation, that has some gaps, that is looking for ways to fill those gaps. I come in with a holistic view because I'm looking at not only just business practices, but if they have a team, how they are managing their people, how are their team members talking about what they do for customers, and also working with them and how they think about their business. Once again, expanding their thinking and what's possible is part of that process.
What about power partners? What does your average power partner look like, or what are the other professionals or professions out there that you synergize really well with, that you can find a lot of work collaborating or referring back and forth with?
Sure. I work. It's interesting because an unusual partner, I think, but one that is very helpful, is those mindset professionals. Now you can say, okay, well, what's the difference? I have mindset, and then there is mindset. And mindset is when, I start working with someone and say we're working on pricing strategy, for example. And I'm saying, okay, one way to increase your income or your revenues is to adjust your pricing. Well, some people have real blocks about about money, okay? And in order for them to really go into the marketplace and ask for money in exchange for the value that they create for their clients, there is some significant work that has to happen. So a mindset coach can be very valuable in helping my client get to a place that they are even able to receive the guidance and consulting support that I offer, because they have to think differently. They have to adapt. Other great partners are actually what I call adjacent people, accountants. I have CPAs in my network, people who really help people do strategic tax optimization. Um, I have people who do very significant level of digital marketing, to the extent something that I don't do. Because the way I look at it is, if I'm coming in with an eye to look across the business and see opportunities, it's not necessary for me to be the expert in everything. I need to be the expert in understanding how the pieces work together, and then to assess where my client is in application of those different pieces, and based upon what they want to accomplish, to help them prioritize those things that can bring them the best results, the fastest and at the least cost. And then I have a view for people outside of me who are vetted, that I have relationships with, who bring really strong expertise in certain areas, so that my client can get their results faster. So that's so I may have people who are doing marketing. I have people who are LinkedIn specialists, and then of course I just have people who are in businesses. Say for example, they're in a functional area that's supporting that a CXO or their owner or founder, and I make connections with them.
So, what advice would you give to a new or an aspiring entrepreneur?
I would tell them the most important thing that they can do early on is to understand who it is they're going to serve. Because when that is clear, then they can go to the next level of thinking through what it is they are dealing with, in terms of their pain points. When I have found a small business or an early entrepreneur that's really struggling finding clients, many times it's because they are trying to serve everyone and not someone. Okay. And so that's the first thing, is to really understand who it is they're going to serve. And then, out of understanding their pain points, to do a really good job of defining what is their unique selling proposition, so that they can build around whatever that service or product is, they can build around that in differentiating themselves from everybody else that's in the marketplace. Because there's a lot of people who do similar things, but how are you going to distinguish yourself from everyone else?
Okay. How can small business owners boost profitability without increasing workload?
That is a fantastic question. One way to do it is to synchronize cash coming in and cash going out. So get favorable terms. Now, that means a couple ways. Terms can mean the way you actually make an offer and get paid for your services. In some cases, that can be you ask for a deposit, and then you receive the rest of your payment along a milestone schedule or at certain points of the time that you are serving your client. Or you can choose to have a different pay system where you're retained and you get a fixed amount every month. So by doing that, what you're able to do is you're better able to synchronize when you have cash coming in and when you have to pay out cash. And that can make a huge difference in improving the cash flow. Another way is is even the terms that you get from people that you're buying for. So, for example, I had a client that I was working with who had a 45-day net terms. 45 days means that you have not only 1 month that you have no pay, but also a half a month that you have no pay. And that was really a nightmare. So actually, I had to go back and talk to that client about their terms so that we could bring those ends in closer. So I did not have such a span of time without cash coming in. I think that that probably is one of the biggest things if you have cash flow is making sure that it's synchronized, that in and out is so important. And that, managing that means that you don't add any more people, no more work. It's just really getting into the timing.
Okay. What's the first step to stabilizing cash flow in an early stage business?
The first step is making sure you have good pricing. Okay. Um, you can price your product or your service too low that it does not even cover the basic inputs into you producing that good or service. Okay. Um, the second thing has to be making sure you have good terms. A third thing is to try to build a reserve. If you can build a reserve or have a line of credit so that you have the capacity to float some of those expenses when they come in.
Okay. And then how can aligning your team and operations lead to sustainable growth?
The reality is that if you have everything inside of your head, then only you know what needs to happen and why it needs to happen. One of the things that's so important about alignment is that the people in your team, they also understand the why of what they're doing. That's the first thing. Why is it they are doing what they're doing? What's their purpose? The second thing is making sure they understand the important role that they play in making it happen. So, for example, let's talk about the customer experience. So, people will say, oh, yeah, I'm customer focused, so whatever they ask, I take care of. But, that customer experience is an emotional experience. It is more than simply what you do to serve them, but it is how they feel when you are in the room. So when you have an alignment between yourself, the people in your team, and that alignment really embraces what you're trying to do from your unique selling proposition, okay, from the kind of service, the brand that you have, what people will think and feel about when they buy something that you provide, and the difference that it makes for them. When you have that kind of alignment, then everyone is moving towards that end to have the best customer experience, to make sure that they provide the best quality, to make sure that working with your particular business is something that no one can find anywhere else. That is how you get people to move towards one end. Now, at the end of the day, you can have all the alignment that you want. I think it's so important to have a philosophy of thanking people for showing up. Recognize and appreciate the people around you because No man or woman is an island. Whatever we're doing, we're touching someone else's life. Either they are providing a service to us or we're providing a service to them. And so when someone is helping us to achieve our dreams, say thank you. That can go a long way in the impact of that alignment.
Absolutely. And you mentioned this earlier when I asked you the advice you'd give an entrepreneur. Why you? What sets you apart from everybody else out there doing something similar?
I have a I have had an interesting background. I've had the privilege of working in multiple cultures, uh, living in different places, and actually helping people who are very different than me come up with solutions for their business, for their situations, for the people that they're dealing with. And I think that what that does is creates in me a level of patience and insight to human nature that makes the solutions that I offer unique to the particular situation and person that I'm dealing with. It's one thing to go in with a body of knowledge. Of course, I have a lot of experience and just go in and kind of rubber stamp it and say, this is the way it happens. But that's not the way I work. My Ignite programs are highly customized. That's why I don't try to serve five, six, or seven clients at the same time. The maximum number of clients I want to work with is three at a time so that I can give them that customized, highly personalized service. And in the course of working on hard business solutions, I'm also working with them in their personal growth, how they are evolving and becoming better leaders and becoming more confident in their ability to make choices and decisions for themselves and for their businesses. And I'd like to think for just a few minutes with me, whether or not they buy my product, that they will be better for having spent that time with me.
Absolutely. And there's so much that we can go into with all this, but in general, is there anything that I missed or that I failed to ask that you wanted to add?
Hmm. I want to tell anyone who is going into business for themselves that the most critical skill for them to have is to be adaptable. And that means that if you happen to have come out of traditional employment, a lot is already done for you. But when you start to run your business or you have your business, you're doing everything. So the ability to adapt to those different roles that you play, from being a technical person to being a manager to being a salesperson, to adapt to those different roles are important. But if you've always been an entrepreneur, then it's still just as important for you to adapt because the economic conditions change, as we know, on a whim. So things can be up or down. You need to understand the financial dynamics of the environment in which you work and to be able to foresee things coming and to adapt. Adapting will allow you to ride out some of the biggest challenge, but if you're inflexible, you'll break. So learn to adapt.
Awesome. For those out there that have more questions that need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that? Where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, LinkedIn is my platform, and on LinkedIn there is a calendar link so people can get directly on my calendar if they'd like. They can also email. My email address is right there on LinkedIn. Okay. Or they can DM me on LinkedIn. But I also have a presence on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And so any of those outlets are available. Oh, and by the way, I have a YouTube channel as well.
Perfect. And I'll put all that in the show notes so it's super easy to
Sure.
find. If anybody would like to get a hold of Fran do it. She's the exact same in the one-to-one as she is here. So you're don't be shy. You're gonna walk away knowing more than you did going in. So absolutely reach out and have that conversation. If anybody would like to get a hold of me, you can find me at ikag.me. You can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with our growing community of awesome people like Fran. If you or somebody you know would like to be interviewed, you can also apply on the website. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. You lot of gold in the mill, a lot of good nuggets, a lot of good takeaways, and you have so much more that people need to reach out and have a conversation about. So let's all go. Let's have an awesome day and grow our circles. All right.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much for the time. And I really hope your audience gets a great benefit from our conversation. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.